Dilettante, say something.
Something.
We divide the intro into threes. We divide the break into threes. We have to divide the outro into threes. So he does social media. I do next week. You need something to do.
What's left?
Just say something.
Oh
God, the silence! It's creeping in.
Deepen your voice to be essentially draconic and tease the listeners.
No. We thank you for listening to this podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Welcome, listeners, to the World of Dragons podcast. I am Ray, the Sea Dragon.
I am Dilettante, the Sky King.
And I am Bantam, the half-breed. Also,
yes.
No.
I will let Sky King slide this one time just because it's on topic.
Fine.
That means I'm the Sea King.
No, you're a newt.
What the hell does that make me?
You can be one of the humans that has to deal with the dragon bullshit.
All right, I'm quitting. I quit the podcast.
You got downgraded to man.
Nope. No, unacceptable.
You can be a blighter instead then.
Okay.
That's better?
That's better.
Okay.
Our goal on this podcast is to build a collection of reviews of dragons and other non-human related books and other media to make it easy for fellow fans like yourself to find the next world you want to visit.
We will open with a brief review of the day's material to help you decide if you're interested. Then, we'll take a short intermission so that you have time to stop the episode if you want to read, view, or play it for yourself before we spoil it.
Then, after we return, we talk more in depth about the story, its twists and turns, as well as our favorite characters and what we each enjoyed about the setting. There will be spoilers at this point.
And this episode, we will be reviewing Dragon Champion by E.E. Knight.
I'm pretty sure it's E. Knight.
Yeah.
So, the general synopsis is a family of dragons living underground. It begins with the hatching of the main character, AuRon. And they're...
Let me interrupt for 1 minute. Let me interrupt for 1 minute. Because there is a foreword to this book where the author says that he wrote this book because he got a lot of fan letters about a vampire novel that he wrote. And most of the listeners or readers were around 12 to 13, 14 years old. And it made him uncomfortable because that book was incredibly violent. So he decided, I'm going to make a fantasy book that takes place in a world of dragons.
That's equally as violent.
That kids can enjoy, that isn't as violent. And then what proceeds through the rest of this book is the most fucking violent thing I've ever heard described. Over and over and over. I mean, I'm talking mass graves, rape, murder, just things being dissected, ripped apart, dismembered. I really, I'm not actually going to do it, but part of me really wants to know what the hell was in this vampire book that he claims that Dragon Champion is less violent. Because holy crap, I've never had more whiplash of like, whoa, wow, okay.
No, I think you had equal whiplash when we did the adult book, Night's Fire.
Well, that was different whiplash. That was
Different whiplash.
What did he say? But yeah, listening to the forward, and I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, and because I was like, oh, so it's going to be some, froofy, happy, whatever. And then the very beginning of the book immediately just starts off with just slaughter and violence. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now you can continue.
Yeah. So the book is the first in the Age of Fire series, and the narration on Audible is provided by David Drummond.
I said, I will say, for the audiobook, he does do a very good voice for AuRon.
He does really good voices for all the male characters. His female characters sound fucking horrible. Again,
I mean, that's given.
You always believe they should have two narrators.
Two narrators, male and female.
That's expensive, though.
I don't care. The amount they sell these stupid books for on Audible.
We don't know what the profit margin on them is, though. Write a book, get an audiobook made, and then you can put in your 2 cents.
I just hate it when a guy plays a female voice.
That hurt my ears.
Yeah, that hurt my ears every time I had to listen to any of these narrators do a female voice.
Okay, first off, there weren't very many female voices in this, so it was okay. And then second, I don't think he was that bad at them, because there were so few.
Hey, Arthur really likes sausages, too.
I mean, I guess that could have bled in there. But yeah.
Hey, I was making a reference to how AuRon...
I get that, but I mean, just because there was a scene of sausages, I don't think that means the author himself loves them.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Alright, fine, cut that out.
The general synopsis is a family of dragons born underground. Their nest lair, den, whatever you want to call it, is raided by what the dragons call assassins, which is just one of the 4 main hominid races, or any of the 4 main hominid races, rather. Dwarves, elves, humans, or blighters. And then the rest of the book kind of just follows the main character, AuRon, as he just travels the world, having escaped, and grows up, and just follows his interactions with the different denizens of the land, and kind of how he shapes his opinion on how dragonkind should interact with the rest of the world. I only bring that up because the other 2 books follow different characters, so they're not going to be AuRon again, and they, in a similar path, kind of just explore how their opinions on how dragonkind should interact with the world develop.
So are they going to get around as much as AuRon then? Because, my god, he went all over the damn world.
They do travel a fair amount, but not as much as he did. But they do have different experiences, and so we will, during the second half, when we get into spoilers, we will get into AuRon's individual interactions and how that affects his viewpoints.
I also want to say up front, minor criticism on the book in general. So usually in media, when we talk about elves, dwarves, and humans, we all know what they are. It's not too hard to write the word elf in your book, and, people are going to picture like Legolas or Elwyn or whatever. But the blighters were not described in much detail in this book, and I was left not knowing if they were basically this universe's version of orcs, or if they were goat men, or if they were just big, ugly, hairy people. He didn't go into too much detail about any of the other races, and he got into the elves and the dwarves, but he spent almost no time on the blighters, and that was honestly the secondary race that I was most interested in, and it was kind of disappointing to not, have them described so that I could picture them.
I think I remember hearing a small bit about them described as goat-like. I want to say.
I think at one point they mentioned tusks, which is why we thought orcs. I remember when I read it the very first time, I thought they were insectoid, but I think that's just because the kind of voice the narrator gave them, it just made that fit in my head.
Yeah, I specifically recall he described them as being hairy and kind of lumbering, and warlike and primitive, but he didn't really. When I was listening to the audiobook with Ray at work, I remember looking over at him and going, "Are they basically orcs?" And he was like, "Hmm." And then later on, they describe them a little bit more, and I was like, "I think they might be goat men, which makes them better." But he never went into detail. Like he basically describes the elves as they're elves.
Because you don't have to describe the other ones.
Yeah.
The most he really says about these are they're large beings with broad, squat faces, and some have prominent fangs.
Yeah, that tells me nothing.
That's really all we get.
Yeah.
Really kind of sounds like orc, honestly.
Well, I'm gonna prefer goat men, so I'll just pretend they're goats.
I like my idea of little insectoid people. If anyone plays Final Fantasy XIV, they're like the freaking, are they called Nath in that?
Nath, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I imagine them to look like, but whatever. That's just me. Alright, so the writing style, dialogue, pacing, all of that. How good was the author at that?
I liked it. So comparing it to the last book, Knight's Fire, so there were a couple times, and there's actually a lot of books where I find examples of a character will say this, he said, to so and so, blah 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 blah, he replied to so and so, and it's like, okay, are you padding your book? Because I don't need to. It's a conversation between two people. You don't need to say he said to so and so. This book didn't do any of that, and I loved it. This book was incredibly easy to follow. The dialogue, again, narration, speaking from an audiobook point of view, he did a really good job differentiating the voices, so I always knew who was talking. But, I feel like if I were reading along, I would still understand who was who and, what was what without having, he said to so-and-so, he replied, he started, I don't like that stuff.
Yeah, it really helped that most of the interactions were just one-on-one. So in writing form, because a new speaker would have a new paragraph, it would be very easy to just assume it was going back and forth. The problem you describe usually comes when people have like pockets of discussion, like there's 3 or 4 people in this group all talking to each other. But yeah, Dilettante, what do you think about the writing style?
I don't really have any main complaints about it. This is like the only second book I've read, so I don't really have much of a reference to compare it to. But I can't really complain.
Can you, though?
Did either of you ever have any trouble following? Like, I think you both complained during the Tooth and Claw book.
Oh, Tooth and Claw was garbage.
I love Tooth and Claw.
Tooth and Claw was Victorian era nonsense.
My God.
It was a dragon on a balcony going, forsooth!
I did follow this.
There were no forsooths.
It's what it felt like to me.
I will admit, I did follow this a lot easier than Tooth and Claw.
Yeah, Tooth and Claw was Shakespearean garbage with dragons.
It wasn't even Shakespearean.
Whatever!
Alright. To give my own opinion, since I asked you to, I liked the writing style. I felt like it was very descriptive when it needed to be. And the things that it didn't need to be, it just kind of glossed over them. So, didn't really, I guess, waste time on whatever. He didn't pull a Tolkien on the flower patches.
Yeah, part of me kind of wants to read Tolkien because, everyone, the movies were amazing, absolutely amazing, like flawless cinema gold. But
you want to see how much was Tolkien and how much was Spielberg?
Well, no, Peter Jackson
or whoever. Okay, whoever. I don't know directors.
You fool.
I'm the bookworm.
Yeah. I can puff up and be like, "Ha, you simpleton." But yeah, from what I understand, Tolkien had a very rambling, meandering writing style, and yeah, there were scenes where he would spend like 30 pages describing rivers and trees and stuff. So it was like, I don't think I could make it through one of his books.
I feel like we bash on Tolkien every time we do an episode on a book. We should probably tone that down a bit.
It's okay. He's dead. He won't know.
No, he's dead. He will know. Imagine dead guy listening to our show. Everything else he could be doing in the afterlife, and he's just hanging out here.
Supremely angry.
Oh my God, there would be somebody petty enough that they would just look into everybody who talks about their works.
Oh yeah.
Alright. Narration.
So I already said my piece. The narration was amazing for all the male voices. The few times he did female voices, it was lilting and annoying. I couldn't stand his female voices.
He did do the dwarves great justice.
Oh yeah. Oh, the dwarves
are great.
The dwarves were great. The very few instances where male elves talked was also pretty good because
you didn't like Hazel Eye?
No, I'll talk about her later. I hate her.
Probably in the spoiler part.
Yeah. I hate her.
You didn't like her voice though?
No, I didn't like any of his female voices.
I rather liked her voice. I feel like he did really well. Like, if you told me that was a girl playing that voice, I would have believed you.
Yeah.
Dilettante, your thoughts on narration?
I guess I kind of gave my opinion when we were talking about the actual audiobook in general. But as far as the voice actor in general, he did a great job. Although I will admit he did speak a little slow, and I was listening to it kind of like at 1.5 speed.
Whoa.
That's just me.
Slow down, Gonzalez.
I will sympathize with Dilettante that when unsupervised, I do listen at 1.5. Well, so it's not because I want to get the book over with and I don't like it. It's mostly that when I was a kid and I used to read novels like crazy, I always read very, very fast.
Yeah, because you didn't really read.
No, I did.
Skim read.
No, I did not. And when I was in school, and they would, have us all open a book, and each student read like a couple paragraphs, that always aggravated the absolute piss out of me, because when I would read, they'd tell me to slow down, and then I'd have to just be dragged at a snail's pace through this book by all the other kids when it's their turn. I hated it. I've always been a fast reader. And so, yeah. Unsupervised, I will listen to this on 1.5 or even 2 times speed.
That and a lot of the narrators that I've seen in audiobooks do put a lot more emphasis on the actual words, and thus that kind of slows down the pronunciation a lot.
Well, you probably need to worry about enunciating correctly so that people don't complain that, oh, he mumbled, I had no idea what he was talking about.
Well,
that's a good point.
The other problem is that, and I only know this from a DVD extra on Metalocalypse, if you don't develop a speaking style for an audiobook and maintain it throughout the entire book, you will start to slip very slowly, and by the beginning of the book will sound completely different than the end.
That would be the hardest thing about doing an audiobook would be talking the same for 14 hours.
Yeah, the main character of Metalocalypse, Nathan Explosion, he, as a DVD extra, was reading a Shakespearean play, and in the beginning he was doing his voice, but by the end it was just his normal speaking voice with chuckles in between, because he couldn't hold it.
Yeah. What else to fit in the spoiler-free part?
We could still get the general opening.
Well, we could, but we should talk about what makes this particular world unique as far as like the dragons are concerned. Since our whole point is to dive into the dragons of different worlds, what makes this one stand out? If somebody had this book lined up against like 5 other ones, why should they pick this one over the others?
So this one has, I mean, the main character is a gray dragon. He has no scales. And that
it is also 100% dragon point of view. It never jumps around to anybody else.
Yeah, having a scaleless dragon is relatively unique, I feel, because dragons are always like, oh, he was ruby colored, or he was red, or green, or blue. In this one, there is a scaleless version, which I assume means basically all dragon skin is gray underneath their scales. But it's also, they describe the dragons, in order to harden their scales, eat metal and, precious gems and whatever. And it's like, as a gray, he doesn't do that. So he has advantages and benefits that mean he doesn't need to keep a hoard. Therefore, he's not in danger of having like a nest that he has raided. Or
it is worth noting that in this world, they explain the reason why dragons keep hoards is because dragons have to eat metal. There's a special, like, secondary stomach, I guess, or some sort of organ that will hold the metal and break it down, and they turn the ferrous metals into their scales. And so if they don't get enough metal, their scales become sickly and they start falling out, and that's like their greatest defense, right? So most dragons, when they see or smell metal or taste it, they have this like intense
compulsion.
Compulsion, yeah. I wouldn't really call it a greed because it's not just to hoard it. Compulsion to take it, to eat it, to hoard it if they can't eat all of it right then and there. AuRon doesn't have that compulsion at all because he doesn't have any scales. And so he's able to interact with people much easier.
And they, in turn, are like, well, if, he's not going to eat gold or jewels, so we can kind of like relax. He also has the ability to camouflage himself. And he has...
Apparently his gray skin can change color.
Yeah, and he also is incredibly fast in the air, because without the extra weight of scales, he is incredibly maneuverable, can climb, run, hide in small cracks and crevices.
Well, no, he can't run. They actually explain that the gait that dragons have, they can't run long distances. That's why whenever they did small little lunges, they always called it a dragon dash.
Oh, I hated that. So like dragon, every time he said dragon dash, all I could picture was a special ability in a video game. Like, I'm gonna use dragon dash. It's like you're a dragon and you're dashing. I don't. The fact that in the book they describe dragon dashing as kind of like a slithering dash, it doesn't matter. It's like you can just say that when dragons sprint, they have more of a serpentine sway to them. And then you can just say he dashed over there instead of he dragon dashed over there. I feel like both words need to be capitalized because it's like a special ability.
I mean, it might have been. We don't have the physical book.
It's silly to me. The other thing that
I felt like it was harmless. Dragon Dash is fine. It was okay.
I'm not saying that there was any harm in it. It's just it sounded like a special ability. Like I was listening to a lit RPG again, because you don't need to say he dragon dashed to the rock. You can just say he dashed to the rock. He is a dragon, therefore he dragon dashed. You don't need to say he dragon dashed over there. And I also did not like coming up with... So he speaks as if a person would throughout most of the book. But picking like a couple unique words to... Again, I'm critical of books because I don't like them. I prefer movies and TV shows. But referring to the front legs as sea and the back legs as saw was unnecessary and stupid to me because it just sounded silly in a sentence, like his see and saw, and it's like, can you just say his front and back legs?
I don't remember that.
That's how they describe them.
Yeah, I think a lot of fantasy authors fall into the trap of I gotta make these words unique rather than just using what we already know, just to try to keep it in the fantasy realm.
I feel like it really, really adds to the immersion, though.
It depends on if the context is presented there, it can. But without the context, it falls flat.
Yeah, I feel like if a character is going to use a fantasy term and then they describe it in narration to what the reader, so like a good example would be, he flexed his see and saw, and then the narrator says, meaning he gripped the wall with his front legs and kicked with his back or something. And then he describes it in normal terms for us at all times, but if the character ever is speaking to another character, he can use those fantasy terms, because now we understand what they are.
Nah, I feel like that's babying the reader at that point.
Well, again, books like this, I don't know which books are passion projects or which books are meant to make a profit, but if you're going to be an author and you're trying to make a popular book that is going to get, purchased by a lot of people, you don't want to alienate them immediately by using fantasy terms they don't understand and making them feel stupid. Like, unfortunately, the lowest common denominator needs to be catered to in order to make a successful book. I have read the first couple Harry Potters. They are infantile in their writing, but they're incredibly successful and they're really easy, good reads.
Okay, so I'm going to be the bad cop when it comes to reviewing this world. While I was reading this world, or while I was listening to the audiobook, I just felt like it was like the most generic fantasy setting. You got the money-hungry dwarves working as a corporation.
Not all of them are money-hungry. It was just he just happened to run into the businessmen dwarves. The other groups, like the Wheel of Fire, were more combat oriented. They preferred fighting and raiding and doing mercenary work and stuff.
Yeah, but my point being though is that he did focus on most of the money-hungry stereotypical dwarves.
Yeah, the Wheel of Fire was mentioned offhandedly twice, and they played a part in the beginning of the movie, the beginning of the book. So they only talked about the backstory and the background of the merchant company. They did.
I mean, but even then, it was a merchant company. If they were being just stereotypical dwarves, they'd be all miners. The fact that they were merchants doing caravans and stuff, that was different. You can't really be mad at a race for liking money when money is what makes the world go round. I mean, you don't get mad at the humans you ran into loving money because they were all mercenary groups.
Oh, I can get mad at the humans no matter what.
Yeah, but my point being is that they did follow like what you'd expect out of a dwarf. They didn't feel like they do anything new with them, like the mineral dust in their beards.
That's totally.
That's actually.
Never read another book where dwarves did that.
I'm gonna side with Ray on this. That was actually. I remember actually pausing the audiobook while I was at work and going, "Hey, that's pretty neat." That they cultivate glowing mushrooms in their beard and speckle it, and it's a sign of stature that you can afford to put gold dust in your beard.
Gold dust or gems or whatever. Yep, and so all dwarves wear masks because the glowing fungus dies in the light. So every single dwarf is masked.
Yep. So you're wrong, Diletan. Your opinion is bad. I'm gonna cancel.
He's just focusing on the money part, not looking at everything else.
I'm gonna cancel you, Diletan.
No!
Diletan racist against dwarves confirmed.
I mean, I'm racist against anything that isn't dragons or monsters.
Well,
so.
see, that's not racist. That's just understanding your natural superiority.
That's true.
Yeah, another interesting biological fact about dragons that I want to bring up, seeing how we talked about the scales and the eating of the metal. Dragons are born wingless, which I really like.
I don't like how their wings come into existence. That
Yeah,
was the most disgusting part of the book.
Yeah, I don't either. That was disgusting.
Oh, you guys are just queasy.
Fucking describing the pus and all the fucking just
And him licking it.
and him like tearing like loose skin off for his wings to come out, like that made me gag.
Yeah. So listeners, it's worth noting that the dragons in this world are also kind of wild in the sense that they don't have cities, they don't build furniture, they still live in caves, and therefore they do act very animalistic at times. A good example being when he does get his wings, and so there's these growths on his back that itch, and he starts rubbing against a stone, and then when they pop, he licks up the blood and pus because that's how animals clean themselves when they have that kind of stuff leaking.
Oh.
So even though they're fully intelligent, they can talk and they can read, or some of them anyway, and all that, they're still very animalistic in nature.
Yeah, they're actually, there's a lot of similarities to insects because like there's not too many reptiles that can regrow limbs, and from this, I mean, he regrew his tail at one point.
That's a reptilian trait, not an insectoid trait, though.
Lots of insects can regenerate limbs.
Well, limbs, yes, but insects don't have tails. I don't think he could regrow his arm.
Yeah.
Actually, alligators can't regrow their tails, so... Bazinga. Ah.
Dilettante, can you regrow your tail?
I'm going to say yes and not test that theory.
I'm gonna say yes and test the theory.
Let's not say we did.
I've got an axe.
Dragons in this would also grow multiple pairs of horns. Once the first one is fully grown, they start growing a second one, and so the older dragons will have many, many sets. I think the oldest one he runs into, we won't say his name right now, I think he had, I want to say 14, but I'm probably totally off, but it was a large amount of horns.
Does that mean it looks like something out of a deer?
Probably, which is really cool.
Yeah.
No, I actually do like that.
Yeah, and so I guess circling back around, writing style, he has a couple of, I guess, emotional parts. Not emotional like sad, but like where a character shows a certain emotion, and I feel like he describes that very well. Like when AuRon was getting his first horns, and someone's like, "Hey, are those horns I see? There's some nubs on your head," and he's like, "Oh my gosh, are they coming in straight?" And like reaches up to like feel at them.
That was kind of
It's
adorable.
It was adorable. There are a couple of really interesting character interactions that he does really good.
Yeah, I'll agree. I did feel emotions while listening to this book, and contrary to popular, opinion, with Ray, I don't feel much for a lot of books. If I'm reading something, I usually just read it, and it's just like I feel like I'm a passive, it's just a passive absorbing of what I'm reading. Whereas if a book makes me angry, or a book makes me sad, then that's some big bonus points for the book, and I felt a lot of that in this.
A lot of sads.
There were a lot of sads.
We'll talk about the sads later because I know what some of them are, and they're definitely spoilerific.
And there were a lot of angries too.
Oh, there were a fair amount of angries for me too. I guess just to continue the biology topic, these dragons have liquid fire rather than gas fire. Dilettante, do you know the difference?
I'm assuming what the liquid is if it just falls on the ground and just a puddle of flaming gasoline, whereas the air is just a projectile stream that dissipates.
Most dragon breaths in movies and TV shows and whatever are gas fire, so it just kind of comes out like a flamethrower and big puff and it's gone immediately.
Mm-hmm.
The liquid fire is a substance that after it's spat out will stay for a bit.
It's essentially napalm. It's a liquid that sticks to you and bursts into flames with contact with the air.
The important thing is the important difference is that liquid fire can actually burn stone and such.
Ah.
It probably can't get enough to melt it, but the stone will be on fire. Just pointing out, biological differences on what makes these dragons unique.
Yep, that's basically what napalm is. It's like a jelly.
Mm-hmm. So, Dilatan?
Yes.
Without worrying about the storyline and just the world and how dragons work and all this, would you live here in this world as a dragon?
Absolutely not.
Is it spoilery to say why not? Or can you say why not now?
Probably is spoilery. But honestly, I am a prominent, what's the word?
Defender? I don't know. Prominent what?
I don't know. Supporter? Listen, I will always be in favor of dragons living in society and actually,
Advocate.
collectively. Yes, I will advocate for dragon society rather than just like nomadic cave dwelling. Hey, you're on my territory. I'm going to murder you. Kind of beastly mentality.
Yeah, they used to live in a society. I think his mother tells him a story about some dragons from long ago. So they used to. Then, I guess, through hubris, they had slaves and servants of all the other races, and through laziness and hubris, they allowed them to rise up and overthrow them. So I guess if there was a society still, just taking into account just how their particular biology works, would you want to live here?
Are you saying, like, hypothetically, if it was during the society era?
Yeah.
Sure. I wouldn't mind.
Okay. Bantam?
Would I? No. The fact that the dragons are highly intelligent and can speak and, with a little bit of training, be taught to write and read. The fact that they're still living in caves and not basically fucking off to the other side of the continent where humans and elves and whatever. It's like they have the way their lives are lived is described as basically beasts. But they're intelligent enough to have a society, and it's like, why would you continue to... There are certain things that I feel that are incompatible in this book. You can't have dragons murdering each other right out of the egg until only one is left, but then also be in
one male,
one male, and then have that be a signifier of an intelligent species. That there's too many things that are absolute raw primal feral animal mixed with intelligent creature. An intelligent creature, if I laid eggs and I were an intelligent creature and they hatched, I wouldn't sit there and just go, I wonder which one will survive, as they tear each other apart. That's stupid.
Yeah, no, I rolled my eyes as I tried to defend that.
There are a couple points where male dragons run into other male dragons and they immediately get their fight instincts kicking in. So there's definitely some hyper-territorialism going on. But it's all instinctual rather than cultural.
But it's not instinctual. It is cultural. And the reason why is because,
it is instinctual.
Again, I don't want to talk about it because spoilers, but later on in the book it's actually proven that it's not instinctual because he is around other male dragons who have no desire to fight him. They don't...
No. Okay, we'll get into this later, but put a pin in this, right? But yeah, so as far as would I live here, since I'm throwing that question around, based off this book alone, I'd say no to living, yes to visiting. Trying to separate my future knowledge.
Yeah, but you're a sea dragon, so you'd be fine. What are they gonna do? To send a bunch of rowboats after you?
Hey, they're able to harpoon whales. They can harpoon a sea dragon.
I mean, whales are slow and defenseless.
Defenseless is highly debatable.
So I'm using Kingdom Hearts logic. If I went to this world, I would have to fit their mold, so I would no longer be a sea dragon.
Kingdom Hearts rules.
I mean, it's good for talking about visiting other worlds and such.
Yeah.
All right, Bantam, X out of 5 stars. What do you rate the book?
3.5 out of 5.
Okay, Dilatan?
3 out of 5.
I say 4.5 out of 5. My main detractor was because AuRon is alone for a lot of the time. Some parts felt like they moved really slow.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take our little break now. And when we come back, we will dive into more spoiler-filled discussions. some nerd talk about some of the characters and some more aspects of the world. One of you say see you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Now fight for the right. Whose voice clip will I use?
All I gotta do is
go
just
for
put
his
a hand on Bantam and I win.
No.
Yes.
I go for your throat.
No.
And then I go for your chickens.
My hands will go. Don't go. No, that's a war crime. You don't
First
go
of
after
all-
a man's chickens.
First of all, I am incredibly maneuverable in the air, and you are a big fat dragon. I'd love to see you try to catch me.
Keyword there is big.
Yeah, so I don't think I should have asked Lieutenant if he would want to live here, because if he did, he definitely would not have lived past his first day.
Yeah, I didn't hear any mention of chickens. Like, the fuck?
No, I mean, like, you would have died coming out of the egg to one of your brothers.
Alright, hold on now.
Durandal would have owned your ass.
Well, that's not throw. You don't know that. We were born the same size. I could have taken him.
No, you're you, though.
The fuck?
No, that's fine, because as soon as Dilettante hatches, I swoop in and I kidnap him.
Oh, so, you're the redacted, then.
Yep. I protect Dilettante until he grows up.
If I leave that in, should I have, like, a separate redacted, so it just sounds like I copy-pasted over it rather than a single flowing sentence?
Yes. Do it.
Alright.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're going to be discussing spoilers now. So if you have any interest in this book, definitely give it a read before you continue.
And then you can come back and nerd out vicariously through us.
Or you can nerd out directly by contacting us. The links to or the our social media will be said at the end of the podcast.
That was the sloppiest plug I've ever done.
Yeah, shut up.
Alright. Do either of you have any bones you want to pick now that we can talk about spoilers that have been just itching, waiting to come out?
My God,
Behold,
does AuRon
my
go.
bones.
Both of you, apparently. Okay.
Go ahead, Dilettante.
My God, does AuRon get around? I got exhausted just listening to how much this dragon travels.
Well, that's because you're a fat, lazy worm.
Exactly. Key dragon life. You find a cave, you find a mate, you sit down, you enjoy life. This
He
guy.
can't, though.
Yeah.
No, actually, I do have a very specific bone to pick, and during the opening, it was very cut and it felt like very copy paste to Wings of Fire.
I feel like a lot of dragon books where the dragons are the main character are going to be like that. There's going to be like 2 or 3 chapters in the cave when they're hatched. It kind of feels like a Spider-Man at this point. Rehashing Uncle Ben's death and his origin story. It's like we can have a book where the dragon is already fully grown and he goes about his adventures.
Every dragon's origin story is in a cave.
Yeah, it's the panic and fear of being in the egg, managing to crack free,
Okay,
and then getting used to eating fucking bugs and bats and whatever.
To be fair, I enjoy any in the egg scenes. I feel like it's a really interesting point of view to have. And yes, there are several other books that do that. I'm going to warn you right now. Different worlds, different universes, different authors that do that. And each one does it slightly different, and I like them all. I think it's just a very unique introspective.
If I were to write a book, a dragon book, it would be a dragon that the book would start with a fully grown dragon living in the mountains so far away in desolate territory that it hasn't encountered anybody else and decides it's bored and wants to go see what's out there in the world. And there you go.
I actually got a book I can recommend to you then, because there's one exactly like that. He was so desolate that it actually modern humans built around him and he didn't notice it.
Cool. What's the book?
The Truth About Dragons. I actually found it and forwarded it to you on Telegram, so scroll up, find it. But
yeah, so real fast before you keep going, Bantam, November's coming up, so for, I don't know what the word is, November?
It's called NaNoWriMo.
Whatever. Write it for that.
No. The stuff I write cannot be discussed on this podcast.
There's no dragons in it?
No. Well, there can be. I
Well-
did write a story with a dragon in it just recently, Dilettante.
That was a
but
good
again,
story that we
not
cannot discuss on the
con-
podcast.
Not something we can
I think
discuss
we
on the
can.
podcast.
We have already set the precedent for reading and reviewing adult material, so I think we can.
You can't
I just don't know how
review something
I
that
don't
takes
think-
20 minutes to read.
That should be like a special we do for November. We should all write a short story and then come prepared with it.
Our ideal dragon story. Oh my god.
I don't think my ideal dragon story could be written that fast. That was the problem.
Mine could.
Next. Yeah, so could mine.
There once was a dragon who killed everybody. The end.
The end.
Perfect.
Humans
10 out
were
of 10.
extinct. Dwarves were extinct. Elves were extinct. He systematically
And-
killed every single thing on the fucking continent except other dragons, and they all lived peacefully and happily ever after. The end.
And he got all the bitches.
And he got all the bitches.
Oh, that's
They
another
even-
thing I wanted to bring up, but you go ahead.
We're just making fun of the concept at this point.
I
So
was
you go.
just, I was just.
I am a stickler at pointing this shit out. I pointed it out during Mystery of Caketropolis with the dilemma of the small dragon.
There were no half breeds in this universe.
There are no but apparently when a dragon cannot find a female, he decides to kidnap a human woman.
Okay.
It gets the same
that's-
attraction
that's
to
It's not
that.
just because they like the scent. It's the hormones.
Yeah, and it also, thankfully, did not say anything about them doing anything about that. It was just hormones. They liked the smell, and they also liked music. And a lot of these, when they got sad, they would sing.
Yeah,
And so
it's the
it
o-
kind of.
Sorry, you finish.
No, that's
Okay,
all.
it's the author's way to tie in the kidnapping princess trope, like he used the eating metal to tie in the hoarding gold trope. So that's mostly what that was. It's just the scent kind of entices them. There's no desire to actually mount them, I don't think.
It's not specifically said, but I felt like there were some implications in the
Right?
in between the lines.
If the book was written by a deviant, then maybe there would have been. But we don't know if that would have resulted in children, so it's okay.
I mean, it definitely won't result in children because when they got bored, they ate them.
Yeah. They'd be like, all right, this was fun for a little bit. Oh, no.
Speaking of eating people, that happened a couple times. AuRon ate a couple people.
He ate a child.
And I'm totally okay with... All right, this is going to sound weird. It's not like kill children everywhere, but no, it's more like kudos to the author for being willing to put something like that in there.
Yes.
With not being squeamish about that kind of content.
I legitimately was like, whoa. So he encounters a child, and the child tries to run, so he chases him down, crushes his head between his jaws, and then eats the head. Again. I think probably a good
Book for
20,
all
30 times.
ages.
Yeah, a good 20 or 30 times, because, again, Ray and I work together, so when we listen to the audiobook, there's a lot of times where I'll just look up and give him a face.
I can usually
but,
sense it coming too, so I'll look up and be like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of times in the book where there is absolute hardcore violence. I mean, like, especially this one where he basically tore a child in half and then ate him, which got the whole fishing village chasing him. And I looked up like, holy shit, like with a big smile on my face. Like I've because too many things go the Bethesda route where you're not allowed to kill children because that just creates a lot of controversy. Like, how dare they kill children in this book? And it's like, so a lot of people just avoid it, like the child will run away or hide and all the adults will get killed. It was refreshing to have a child get murdered.
Interesting choice of words.
Yeah, that sounded bad.
Yeah.
So, what was the most surprise? I know, man, probably you killing the child, but anybody else have like one specific scene that really took them by surprise, as far as the
Shock value?
shock value in the gore setting, or in the just how violent this book can get?
It would be the egg hatching scene in the beginning. That
Yeah.
shock valued me, and after that I was prepared for everything else.
Yeah, I will say that
It's like,
I
oh, we're doing
agree.
that type of book, okay.
I agree, but there were two other points in the book that caught me off guard. So the egg hatching scene kind of set the baseline for like, whoa. The only other two in the book, because we are in spoiler discussions, was the mass grave in the desert raiding village, where they were just like essentially just abusing, killing, and then dumping bodies into a pit.
Yeah.
And that was another moment that I looked up and went, kids book, or more appropriate kids book. And then the other one was the killing of the child. Again, I was like, every time one of these scenes came up with all this vivid descriptions of just tearing and feeling things snap in jaws and blood everywhere, and I'm just like, I just look up at Ray and be like, what the fuck happened to all appropriate for children?
The one thing that really got me was probably LS2, specifically. At the very end where he rips his own tail off to save himself from the venom.
Yeah.
And when he finds his dwarven friend dying.
Okay, that was pretty interesting.
That one caught me off guard.
The first time I read the book, that made me very like half sad, half angry, because I loved Jer. I loved him.
I loved Jer too.
And so to have him just get killed off, I'm like, no. What?
One of the things that Ray knows very well about me is that I hate tropes. I hate when, you take a whole bunch of little ingredients from common media and just throw them into a pot and stir, and then there you go. And one of the biggest tropes that aggravates the piss out of me, and this is in all media, not just books, it happens most in movies and TV shows, is there's a character that's dying, and the character is stuck in a perpetual state of living forever until the hero can come over and get 3/4 of a story. And so the main character will come over and be like, oh my God. And the other guy will be like, oh.
No, wait, allow me my exposition first.
Yeah, allow me my exposition. And that way the last 3 words that are most important get cut off because I go, and slump over. When Jer is literally like struggling to breathe and talk, and then he's like, just end it. And AuRon just goes, wham! It's just like headbutts him to death. And I was like, nice. Like, I felt bad for Jer. I really did. But at the same time, I was like, all right, he didn't go on about, oh, I tried to defend, and oh, it's so good to see you, my friend, and here's something you need to know. I that would have driven me up a wall.
Yeah. Dwarves have been growing on me recently. Like, I think I would probably dare call them my favorite human adjacent fantasy race, in the vein of like dwarves or elves and gnomes or whatever, right? I think they're my favorite as far as those go. And so I got attached to Jer, and I was looking forward to him coming back to the diadem at some point and just, I guess, having another adventure. And it's like, nope, dead. And the whole diadem's burned down, everyone's dying, everything's terrible.
Rock and stone, brother.
Hate that game. But yeah, it does kind of fit into the theme of AuRon's experiences, where every interaction he's had with people has ended poorly, has had some sort of sadness or heartache attached to it. Even Numwalk, the other dragon, that ended sadly for him, and so that's why his view, I don't know if they touched on it like in the last chapter, or if it's going to get brought up later in one of the other books, so forgive me if whatever. But his view is that dragons should live isolated. They should not interact with anybody else, even other dragons. It should be, you just get your lair, get your territory, get your family, and that's it. Don't interact with anyone else because it leads to nothing but sadness.
Well, I mean, that's all well and good until the humans find you and go, oh, a dragon, and kill the shit out of you. Like,
the thing is, that's why he wants to build his home in the Isle of Ice, where humans don't really go because it's not very
there's
good
no
land.
farmland.
Yeah,
it's not good land.
Yeah, he's willing to take a subpar territory just to stay out of the humans' way, rather than having to fight with them or try to work with them. He would just rather remove himself.
I mean, there's always the other option, which is kill all the humans.
He doesn't want to do that, though.
But I want to kill all the humans.
He's smart enough to know that would lead to their extinction. They don't have the
like
numbers.
Book 3 then.
What?
You're like Book 3 then.
Yeah. Oh, right. And the so as far as sad points in the movie.
It's fine. I keep calling things books and when we talk about movies, so it's fine.
As far, well, it just shows where we are.
Yeah.
But as far as other sad points, aside from Jer's death, so the Black Dragon,
Numwalk.
When his Alzheimer's, like that. I mean, even in real life, Alzheimer's is very sad, and to have that happening in a dragon was both equal parts scary and also just really sad. And the fact that it led to his death, where he was chasing him across the desert and ended up getting impaled on the spire, the onyx spire, and then as he was dying, he came back to his senses and was like, "Oh, shit." Like, that was super sad.
Did you enjoy how he also died on/by the grave of his old friend Tyndaris, who he missed dearly, and he's like, "Well, if I knew this existed, I would have come here before."
Yeah, that was also sad.
Will you bury me with my old friend?
Yeah, that was also really sad. And the fact that he actually did go and bury him, which was good.
Out of all the interactions, all the different scenarios that AuRon went through, dealing with different people, which one did you like the best?
The wolves.
You enjoyed I love Blackheart too. Blackheart was fun.
Okay.
When they were doing the whole howling and calling of the thing and all that, Bantam's looking at me like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, like I was laughing the whole time. It's just like, yes, oh, that's great.
Well, because when they were doing the howling, the narrator was making his voice
was making his voice
lilt
howl
a bit, like in the house. It's like, "This is Blackheart of Dawn Roarers. We bring news."
What news?
Yeah, the response comes.
And so the entire time I was listening to that, my face hurt after that chapter.
Oh, it was good shit though. I liked his wolf name, Firelong.
Firelong, yeah. I will say that the way the whole thing happened was I can't decide if I liked it or hated it. The fact that he basically massacred an entire pack and left one alive and went, "All right, let's be friends."
In his defense, they attacked him first.
Well, no. I'm not saying that him attacking the wolves was wrong. What I'm saying is
just the concept.
The concept of like...
Well, you did that in the D&D Starfinder game we just played.
That's true.
It happens.
That's true.
In Bantam's defense, he didn't know they were cute little lizards until after the fact that we slaughtered most of them and took off one of their helmets. You didn't tell us they were cute, so...
Oh, I love the guy. I always like, because that would be a me in real life thing too. Is like you're killing hordes of faceless, armored whatevers, and then you pull the helmet off one and go, "Oh my god, no, they're adorable. What have I done?
I'm a monster.
I'm a monster." And then you find another live one. You're like, no, listen. I'm taking you with me. Come on. I felt like Darth Vader in that game.
Well, we're not talking about Starfinder. We're talking about Age of Fire.
I know.
There was another thing about the wolves I wanted to bring up, but I'm forgetting. Oh, there were a handful of parts that made me emotional, and they were actually tied to very throwaway lines, which is very surprising. Just the type of things that get me. One of them was actually in one of the wolf scenes. I should probably start buying these physical books just so I can turn to the page and read it verbatim. But it was when he leaves Blackheart the first time, and Blackheart is like howling a warning to the men who are chasing him. He's like, "Beware, men of the forest," or whatever. It's like, I don't remember. I'm gonna butcher it. I'm not even gonna try. Just read the book and find out for yourself. And another part that made me emotional was the death of Numwalk. What he says in his anguish to the sky, to the spirits, whatever. It's like, "Beware, spirits, for a good dragon comes to hunt your lands now," or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
That's actually exactly what it was.
But yeah, some interesting culture points. That being one of them, because apparently he was compelled to say that, like that would be the old draconic burial custom, and it just came to him through the memories of his ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we should have touched on in the pre-spoiler. Another aspect of the dragons. They're minorly telepathic. They can speak to each other telepathically, and they don't write. Some of them have learned through interacting with humans, but they don't write, so they pass on their knowledge and histories through their memories. A lot of the times it's while they're in the egg, and other times it's just while they're being raised. But the parents do pass on their knowledge through mind pictures and mind speech, and so generational knowledge that way.
Yeah, they describe it as sending mind pictures. They don't necessarily allow them to see what you saw. It's more a general understanding of what you saw, as well as conveying emotion.
Yeah.
And it appears to maybe work on other creatures, because when he is caring for the little human girl,
Haiba.
Haiba, he desperately tries to send her mind pictures, and
Of
at one
her
point,
climbing on his back or going to sleep or something.
And at one point, she actually, like, as he's sending it, looks up at him and then follows those instructions. So it's powerful enough that maybe it works at a lower effective rate on other creatures.
I think it's stronger to people you have emotional ties to. Like, it's really strong within the family unit, and then it's very weak with everybody else, except for the one you take as your mate. It starts to get really strong with them too.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it's because at that point he was already becoming kind of fatherly towards Haiba. It started to work on her.
Yeah, and I will say that as much as I can't stand humans in pretty much anything, I really liked Haiba.
Haiba was pretty good.
As far as
humans go, Haiba was pretty good.
Yeah.
Don't get full of yourselves, listeners. You're still on thin ice.
So of all the I would say secondary characters, so there's Haiba, there's Jer. What's the name of that stupid elf?
Hazel Eyes.
Hazel Eyes.
Hazel Eye, because she only has one eye now, I think.
Hazel Eye. I hated Hazel Eye. They tried to make her seem like some sort of like, I'm rescuing you, and therefore you should trust me. And it's like, yeah, but the only reason I'm here is because of you. Like, you can't kidnap somebody after their whole family was slaughtered and you were there, and then you rescue them and go, oh, you owe me. And it's like, no, I owe your head on a fucking pike. Like, I hated Hazel Eye. Like, she was not sympathetic or endearing as a character. She basically knew that they were taking eggs to the north, and that they were slaughtering any dragon that didn't come willingly or whatever. But they were affected. She effectively knew that dragons were being murdered and eggs were being stolen, and she was totally fine with it. And then she just decides, hey, I'm going to let this one go, and therefore we're friends now. And it's like, no. You don't get to be a good person in this situation.
No.
I hated you. And that was kind of the first main secondary character that was introduced. And so then when they introduced Jer, I was really apprehensive. But the fact that Jer was just like, when he just approaches Jer, and Jer's like, oh shit, and throws money at him. Like, here,
not at him. It's off to the side, out of the way.
Off to the side.
The idea being that he has the hunger for metal, and so he's going to go after the coins, and he can make his getaway at that point.
Yeah, and he just throws coins, and AuRon's like, the fuck are you doing? And then he feeds him and takes off his collar, and Jer was, I immediately was like, I think I fell in love with Jer the moment he threw coins and went, oh god, take it and leave me alone.
I fell in love with him when he made him a sausage.
Well, that's true, yeah.
I mean, because the whole coin thing is self-preservation. Once you share your fire and your meal with someone, that's more like companionship at that point.
Yeah.
So who was your favorite? We asked Dilettante who his favorite was. He said Black, right? You said who your least favorite was, being Hazel Eye. Who was your favorite?
Mine?
Yeah.
Jer.
It'd be Jer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I would have to say that Jer was my favorite, too. If I had to pick a different one just for the sake of being different, I'd probably say Rush.
To be honest, I was talking about like my favorite actual interaction. If that makes sense.
Wait, what?
So hold on. Let me.
It sounded like you said erection.
Interaction. Get your mind out of the gutter.
This is why enunciating is important, and why you can't read books if you talk fast.
Yes, Southern Dragon.
Yeehaw. Anyway, so what I meant was like the most unique interaction for AuRon was the wolf pack. I thought that was actually very well done and kind of out of the blue. That one I didn't expect after encountering most of like the traditional fantasy tropes. My favorite character though was oh my god, I'm blanking on the black dragon's name. Noomwalk. Because while I was reading this book, I kept thinking to myself, like, why don't they ever do a dragon hoarding something other than gold? And then Noomwalk comes, and he's got a fucking humongous-ass library of generations of knowledge. And I'm like, okay, I see you know what I like.
Yep. Yeah, I did really like that.
Because knowledge breeds.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
You don't remember that
No, I remember that. I was going to have something else to say, and then I blanked out. So, yes, knowledge does breathe. I was going to say some cliche like knowledge is more valuable than money, but like, nah.
Well, it's because money sits there and is spent. It doesn't make more of itself, but knowledge breeds. You can come up with new ideas once you learn other things.
That I like the idea of a dragon being seen more than just a bloodthirsty killing machine that shoots fire and steals your money, rather than just like this ancient wise beast that's seen the world through hundreds and hundreds of years and has accumulated so much knowledge.
I think he was thousands of years old, maybe.
Maybe he was thousands, but I don't
know if we ever got a number. He always said like he made comments like before, like when man was still using wooden spears or something. Like he never gave an actual number though.
Yeah.
So we'd have to know how old the world was to know how old he was. But I think he was the last great dragon, was I think the thing. Dilettante, so you're a soft dragon, but if you weren't, what would you hoard?
Well, if I say knowledge now, either like vast tomes of a culture. I try to pick one or maybe like as many as I can and just try to archive their knowledge, or just pure gems. Like no gold, just ruby, sapphire, amethyst, pearls, that sort of stuff.
I mean, hoarding gems is kind of wonky. They're good to accent a gold pile, but just a pile of gems would actually be kind of weird.
I'm a weird dragon.
You are a weird dragon.
You're a weird sea dragon. What would you hoard? Fish?
Like undersea treasures.
Shipwrecks. I live in a ship graveyard. I hoard the wrecks.
Yep.
I grab the boat and drag it down, and it's not part of my hoard.
And whenever there's I imagine that you just kind of like notice that there's a big empty space in your ship graveyard, so you just kind of pinpoint where it is on the ocean surface and just wait for a boat and just drag it over there and smash it. Perfect. It just sinks down.
No, I don't smash it. Just drag it down, and water just kind of fills it. That way, if I ever like someone enough to give them a boat, I just pull it to the surface and drain it, and then hey, you got a boat.
Yep. Look, it's still got skeletons hanging onto things.
Some of the boats have treasure. I don't bother poking around inside because that would break the boat, obviously.
It's like a loot box.
Yeah. Who knows what you'll get?
Oh, this one was full of this one. Oh, I don't know. I can't make that joke funny.
What, was it full of puppies and now they're all dead or something?
I don't know.
I don't even know what joke you were going for.
I don't either.
I guess since Bantam told us which one he hated, Hazeleye, which one did you hate, Dilettante?
Specific character-wise, I can't think of one I like absolutely despised.
Yeah, and you can't pick the Dragon Blade. That's cheating.
Nah, I was gonna. Actually, I just remembered about him.
He was pathetic. Like they talked up how great and amazing he was, but if he didn't have an army behind him that were like constantly harassing AuRon, the Dragon Blade would have easily been killed. Like I don't agree with that whole thing, and this isn't anything again. When they talk about how, this guy is so powerful and he's unmatched in combat, and it's like they never describe that person 1v1ing someone else. It's always
has his goons soften you up first.
Yeah, it's him and his goons, and it's like, dude, he should have by himself been a major threat and nearly killed AuRon. And then maybe AuRon got lucky and got away. But the fact that the Dragon Blade even had armor made out of dragons and still was like, oh god, and tearing off his armor because he was on fire and still caused him incredible bodily harm. It's like, how the fuck did you kill any dragons?
Wait, hold on. You talking about at the very end of the book when he kills the Dragon Blade?
No. I'm talking about when before he gets his wings and he's by himself in the woods at night, and the Dragon Blade is like, I've killed so many dragons, and it's like, okay, well, there's dwarves and elves and shit in the fucking woods shooting at him, and it's like, okay, well, get rid of your goon squad and then see how good you are. The fact that one belch of fire was enough to end the fight and AuRon to get away, it's like,
didn't,
you're not... Well, it did. Dragon Blade was seriously wounded.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. They described that later on when he got to the fishing village where he signed up with the company or whatever. They described how the Dragon Blade's armor needed to be fixed, and he was pretty wounded from dragon fire. He survived, but he was scarred.
I don't think he was wounded. He did need his armor to be fixed up from the fire, but
I thought I remember reading that he came out unscathed, like the armor was completely unaffected.
Yeah, the armor was fireproof because it's made from dragon scale. That's why he wasn't wounded. And he makes a big point of saying, like, your fire did nothing but burn the sash with the names of the villagers you killed, but they live on in my head, or something like that. That he was not wounded in that at all. AuRon escaped by the skin of his teeth several times.
Alright, whatever. Well, that's another thing I don't like. Is just how...
So I understand your dislike of the Goon Squad, but to be fair, in order to face up against us, they need to have more than one person.
Yeah, but don't boast that don't give yourself a cool nickname and claim that you're the bane of all dragonkind if you can't fight a dragon by yourself.
The thing is, even then, leadership qualities are not very prominent in men, and so a single person who's able to rally enough people and direct them to the goal of slaying dragons and being able to do it, that's still something to brag about.
Oh, I know who I hate. The Worm Master.
Oh, I was going to say, what do you think of the Worm Master after you gave me who you hate, but okay, let's segue right into that.
Okay, yeah, no, so, first off, castrating dragons, what the fuck? Second, the fact that AuRon doesn't even get the status...
You've got nothing to lose, don't worry.
I got 2 things I can lose, thank you very much, and I don't want to lose them. I know what you're insinuating. But, no, at the end, AuRon doesn't even get the satisfaction of killing him. He fucking kills himself.
Oh,
yeah. It's his last great deed is like, I won't give you the satisfaction. Stabs self. Refuses to elaborate.
I thought that was pretty funny too, because it was just like, because for me, it would be not to die. Like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. If you're that intent on dying, or you think that you're gonna die, then at least try to take him with you.
I mean, it's impossible. I already pointed out that one person can't do it. He didn't have a Goon Squad. The Goon Squad was already destroyed at this point.
Yeah, still, go down fighting. Nothing is more cowardly and stupid.
He's also like an 80-year-old man. There is no way.
He had enough. I mean, I kind of want to make.
It's also just a point of how petty he was.
I wanted to make a Star Wars joke. It's like, oh please, I'm an old man.
I think that,
just jumps at the dragon with the dagger.
Yeah. I think there was a scenario where he could have taken AuRon with him, because I think the dagger was one of the poison blades. There was a scenario where he could have taken AuRon with him, but there was no living past that. There's no living past that, because even if you stab AuRon's taking you down before the poison has enough time to really affect him.
You kill AuRon.
The point is, it just shows how petty he is, that rather than take AuRon with him, he would rather deny AuRon the kill.
I mean, see, if I were in AuRon's position there, I'd just be like, well, okay, you've saved me the annoyance of having to kill you.
Like, AuRon didn't want to kill him, though. Because he's like, you've come just to, like the story ends with you killing the old man in his chair or something. I remember the exact words. But then AuRon starts with, well, actually, but then it gets cut off. I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think AuRon wanted to parlay with him because he admits that for all his twisted intentions, that the Worm Master was still a genius. He managed to get dragons to work together. And he wanted dragons to work together, and so if he could get the Worm Master to help with that, just not in a wipe out the rest of the world way, he would have probably spared him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had to kill himself to die at all, and the story just had to end that way.
What was the silver dragon's name that had the very deadly venom?
I can't remember.
I can't either. He was like very important at the end.
It was Silver something, wasn't it?
I want to say Silver Fang or Silver Blood.
It may have been Silver Fang.
Yeah, so how about when he still tries to kill AuRon even after leading a whole rebellion of dragons?
Starlight.
Starlight?
Yeah.
You sure that wasn't the black dragon that had the mating cave of that week?
No, okay, he's the Venomer that murdered Ice Lake because he did better in the trial than him. So yeah, the Venomer is Starlight.
Okay.
Starlight was also a breeder, so maybe it was the same dragon. Breeding cave and murderer.
Starlight was one of the breeders, but he didn't have it for the week. There was a big black dragon that AuRon disguised himself as to slip in and free all the women. Oh, speaking of, how about the fucking...
no, that's Shadowcatch.
Oh, Shadowcatch, okay. It started with an S at least, so I was like halfway there. But yeah, how about that whole fucking scene where she tries to squash her damn eggs to keep the humans from getting at it, and then when she's dead, they had to dismember her to take her out of the cave.
That wasn't that gruesome because she was already dead. It was like, yeah, okay, that's just a fact. That's just how it has to happen.
They still describe the body twitching.
No, this book has a lot of viscera in it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dilettante, do you have a life song?
not really. My life song's kind of boring.
You'll never get a mate.
Listen, I got one. I actually do have a sea dragon queen by my side on my throne, so, ha.
Oh, that poor queen.
She's living the life of luxury. She's not having to sink ships and live in the murky waters.
Yeah. And she gets to tell me bedtime stories.
Yeah.
All right, that's a little weird.
What? She's my mom.
Getting weirder. This is backstory the listeners don't want.
This is exactly what the listeners want. You know it.
It's my surrogate mom. It's not weird.
The plot thickens. I know Bantam hates the copper because he betrayed the family.
Yeah, I wanted him to die. I wanted him to be in the story at some point and just, like... Because the thing is I kind of imagine that AuRon had been like, I forgive you and we should be a family again. And it's like, no, murder him. At one point when he shows up on the island and he walks past a copper and he like checks his leg and he's like, no, it's not my brother. And I'd be like, oh, I really wish it was, so you could just go for the throat and tear his head off.
I'll go ahead and spoil this for you, and I guess the listeners too. This is the spoiler section anyway. I'm only going to do it because the books have been out for several years now. And actually, the audiobook of Book 2 starts with another letter from the author, and he ends up kind of spilling the beans on his plan. Book 2 is from the point of view of his sister, Wistala, and deals with her interacting with the hominids, and she ends up taking the position of wanting to work with them. Book 3 is from the position of his brother, the unnamed copper. And he ends up, through his interactions, wants to... enslave and rule over the hominids.
Ooh, wait
so
a
those
minute. You just sympathized him to me.
Yeah, those are the three different stances that the three dragon siblings end up taking.
Starting to like this copper.
Okay, I'm not going to go into why, because you have to discover it for yourself as we read it, but the copper is my favorite of the three. As cool as AuRon is, I love the copper better. But we'll get to that in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Right. Durmerhan.
Yes.
Dilettante. I should not do nicknames during the show. Dilettante.
Yes.
If this had been a story with you or about you or whatever, what would you have done differently?
Assuming everything that happened to Ron happened to me in the story as well.
At least until you broke off the main timeline. So what would you have done differently besides dying day one?
Well, so day 2, when I watched my parents get murdered, I would probably spend my entire life...
That wasn't day 2. That was like several months later.
Dilettante has some bad luck, okay? It's probably going to happen day 2. Like, once I enter the page, shit happens twice as worse, twice as fast. So, at day 2, I go and try to find my, the people who try to kill my family. And then probably by, like, week 2, I'd end up getting killed by him. Listen, Dilettante is not a fighter. He is a negotiator.
So no matter what happens, you die early on.
Honestly, yes. I am a dragon of words, not of claws and fighting, so...
Thing is, that's what AuRon was too. He was a talker, not a fighter. Except for when he was forced to. But he diplomated his way through a lot of things.
And lucked his way out of every fight he was in.
I mean, that's just a plot armor, though.
Yeah, that was some, like, titanium plot armor.
So if we
Some
give you some
titanium.
plot armor, if we give you some plot armor, how would you have deviated from the story at any point, or did you agree with AuRon's decisions for the most part?
I would not get captured. Other than that,
You got captured. That's out of your hands.
God damn it.
The decision to escape is not out of your hands, so I guess you could have ended up on the Isle of Ice and been just part of the army from the beginning.
Yeah, but there's a risk of castration, but I wouldn't know that beforehand.
No, you would not have. So I think what we can learn from this, listeners, is that Dilettante is a terrible main character.
That you know of. You haven't seen the story of Dilettante yet, which is coming when my attention span fixes itself. Just keep an eye out for that. But, no, so, truth be told, I probably would have stayed as a captive if they were feeding me and treating me okay.
I mean, a blood mixture through the nose.
Oh, wait, that's right. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, never mind. I run the fuck out. Okay. I probably, assuming the timeline's the same, I probably would have done most of what AuRon did. I would not have bothered with the wolves, though, because unlike AuRon, I don't really see the value of interacting with the wildlife instead of just eating them for survival.
But you're the wildlife.
I'm intelligent.
So were they. They talked.
Intelligent wildlife. I'm above the other ones.
Whatever. Bantam, what would you do? What would you have done differently?
Okay, so I actually gave that some thought. So my path would split probably right around the time of Jair's death, when they want me to go spy and, slip into the Dragon Army. Except I wouldn't be spying. I would be enthusiastically joining them. I don't necessarily... I don't necessarily agree with revenge. I mean, the person is dead. They're not. I don't believe that they're gonna look down and go, thank you for avenging me. It's like, no, they're dead. It's over. So I'd rather just wipe the slate clean. And if there's an army of dragons mercilessly slaughtering all other sentient life in the continent, I would probably be enthusiastically joining them.
I mean, but they were doing it to put humans at the top.
Well, I mean, I'd help get them there and then murder the humans.
So you would go the path of Starlights and
Yeah.
probably end up getting castrated and murdered with the rest of the dragons once you were done.
No, I would basically try to systematically eliminate any high ranking or position of leadership, and basically just reestablish dragons as the dominant and feared species on the continent.
That probably could have worked out. We don't really have any way of knowing. We could theory craft all day. I think my main deviation would have been actually pretty close to the end. I think I would have followed most of what he did. I agree with what he did most of the time, with the exception being I would not have stayed in the Isle of Ice. I would have gone down and taken my promised land from not Dyrus. Dyrus is the subjugate. The queen that promised me land in exchange for spying.
I mean, either that. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. I probably would have just stayed in Umwalk's cave.
You would not have done the favor that your daughter Hyba asked you?
No.
But you liked her.
I liked her, but she's not my daughter. And yeah, I liked her and everything, but when she... Alright, so here's the thing. I liked Hyba when she was young. When she grew up and she became all preachy and bitchy and you gotta do this, we gotta go help a whole bunch of other people, I'm like, nah, that's not my problem. I liked her when she was young and she wasn't talking and she was being cute. When she got older, didn't necessarily care. But I would much rather have enjoyed the safety and comfort of the cave with basically unlimited knowledge.
Okay. These are just questions I'm asking from the people on Reddit who gave me some feedback after my solo episode. Dilettante, which character, I guess dragon or otherwise, would you have wanted to be friends with?
Definitely the dwarf in the caravan.
Were there any dragons you would have wanted to be friends with? Or were they all, pretty dumb?
Well, considering I couldn't be friends with any male because they had to fight me, and Noomwalk...
Well,
no,
let's assume that you could.
You could have been friends with the males from the Isle of Ice because they were able to live together after being castrated.
You know what? That illiterate drake worm that AuRon encounters after he escapes.
Oh, God damn it. That's what I was going to say.
I would actually try to work with him and, civilize him to being my friend.
The one that was essentially, so it
the
doesn't...
one on the sandbar?
Yeah, the one that talked like a parrot.
Okay. I'm like, really? He seemed like an asshole to me.
Well, he seemed, to me, I just pictured him being a literal parrot dragon. because the way the narrator like raised his voice whenever he talked and like repeated words, it was like in fact he may have learned words from a parrot.
Possibly.
Because he sounded like one. And I was a little sad but also incredibly amused when AuRon, like, you know, when they were hunting AuRon after he murdered that kid, and then he just led them to the other Drake's thing and they just slaughtered that Drake and we're like, yay, we did it.
My island now.
It's like, wow, way to play the field, you piece of shit. But yeah, no, I was gonna say that when Bill 10 was thinking, I was like, I probably would have gone with the parrot dragon on the sandbar. I feel like that parrot dragon was dumb enough and feral enough that he could be trained to be, you know, a good friend.
He just seemed innocent.
He really did. I mean, he did give AuRon a chance to escape too. He was just like, get off my island.
So I definitely liked Jer, and so would have wanted to be his friend, but I also probably would have felt compelled to leave still because I need to go find Numwalk. And then I would have kept the Blighters as my little underlings because I just love the idea of having underlings.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got murdered. So I would have thrown the fit like he did, burned everything down. So I think the next best friend to have at that point.
I thought you said dragons though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because a lot of the most he didn't interact with a lot of dragons until the very end, and they were all very let's say very special dragons.
Yeah, very special, very one note.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's not very many dragons to interact with.
And all the human characters he interacts with end up dying.
Yeah, very sad time for little AuRon.
I will say that I both loved and hated the Ross character.
Yeah, point is like my choice of friend Jer died. My second choice of friend, the Blighter leader, died. It's like, all right, I'm down to my third choice, but who is my third choice?
Did he?
Well, he's a wolf. He lives like 10 years. And he was like in Numwalk's place for like 30.
That's true.
Or 20 or some massive number.
Well, you don't know. They could be dire wolves. They're like normal wolves. Only dire. But you don't know. They could be fantasy wolves.
My third choice of friend is surprisingly not a dragon. Again, okay, so all the dragons in this book were either very special or extremely antagonistic. So my third choice of friend would be the fisherman from the island that he ends up leaving behind, so he's not part of the massacre.
Oh yeah,
whatever his name was. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like I started to feel for him, and he was a friend. He would have warned me about the poison daggers and all that. So I was like, you know what? You can be my friend.
Just stay here where I can keep you safe.
Be my little servant while I live on this island forever, isolated from everyone else. No, actually, because I said I would have gone back to the Queen to get my promised land, so he could come with me there. There you go. He's now my chief of staff.
No, don't put him in a position of power. That's how you get assassinated. No, so you find your friend, and then you fly him to a desolate island that's big enough to live on.
Okay, so you're just going to have a prison island full of your friends.
A prison island full... No, not full of my friends. One friend. One friend, because you put two there, and one of them might get jealous and kill the other. The only way to make sure that my friend is safe is to keep him isolated on a prison island.
Wow. That's certainly an outlook.
Well, he'll have everything he'll ever need. Food, shelter, riches, just stay here and be happy.
Then he gets lonely and depressed and wants to go interact with other people.
And then I show up and I'm like, yay, you can interact with me. And he's like, I want to go see the outside world. And I'm like, shame I had to kill him. I guess I'll try to find another friend.
No more friends.
I'm a monster. It's fine. I've made peace with that.
Stockholm Syndrome.
You're a monster in many different senses. Both physically and mentally.
I can't help that I'm beautiful.
As you wish.
Yeah, I do.
Are you satisfied with how the book ended?
Yeah.
With AuRon getting his mate, doing the life song, and living in the Isle of Ice, isolated from everyone else forever?
Yeah.
With the amount of death that happened in this book, I was expecting AuRon to die at the end.
Every book ends with the death of the main character. That's how Dilettante's book ends.
No, hold on. That's not how mine ends.
So, I've been playing around with the idea of writing a book, and so I might actually try the November writing challenge, whatever the heck that thing's called. Supposed to be like you write X amount every day, and then at the end of the month you have a novella. If I put Dilettante in there, he's dying.
Listen, I gotta at least die heroically.
You're not a heroic dragon. You admitted that yourself, and I asked you if you would follow in AuRon's footsteps.
It depends. Okay, so
you're gonna be eaten by some unnamed but very handsome and powerful sea serpent.
Yeah, see, the way Dilettante works, the way I work in most of my backstory is that I get exiled from my kingdom, and I have to go around. I go around and try to recruit allies to help take it back. So AuRon's completely alone. Dilettante would not survive.
Alright, any closing thoughts?
Well, not really.
Screw Starflight. His idea was dumb.
Starflight's the wrong character. Starflight's from Ring of Fire. Starlight is the one you can hear.
Potato.
It's more like potato tomato.
What? Okay, well, Starlight. His idea to work with them and then try to overthrow them was very dumb. I can imagine him getting executed and overran immediately. I hope. Oh, actually, what the hell was the great weakness of dragons?
Impression.
Impression?
Yeah. Imprinting.
Oh, so that's how, yeah, because that's how he was controlling all the dragons and why they weren't, well, okay, again, then why, pulling that pin from earlier, like, okay, so if the dragons can be imprinted to ignore, fighting each other,
that's how the imprinting was removing. The imprinting was just making them willing to listen to men.
Oh, okay.
Removing the testosterone, that's what made them not fight other dragons.
Oh, okay.
He said, like, you can know, like, fighting requires being side by side with the males. You can do it no easier with dragons than you can with horses. So for the same reason they gelled horses, they castrated these dragons.
And poor fighters.
What?
So the dragons that were categorized as fighters.
Oh, just poor, like pity. Poor,
yeah,
okay, I get it.
These poor guys. Ain't guys anymore.
When you said poor fighters, I thought you were saying like they were bad fighters. Like, what? What's that got to do with anything? Alright, so no more thoughts? No more opinions?
Nah, for me.
Alright, Bantam, you want to tell them where they can get a hold of us?
Yeah, our email, if you want to send us suggestions or comments, our email is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @officialwadpod. We do have a Patreon if you want to just take a look. It's patreon.com/World of Dragons podcast. And definitely send us some emails so that we can answer some questions.
Yeah, we all kind of do this as a hobby. We all still have full-time jobs, so any donations you make will basically just help us pay for the hosting service, maybe buy better recording equipment, or just help supplement us having to buy these books as we review them and such.
Yeah.
And so every little bit helps out and means a lot to us.
And we'll give you a shout out on air.
Yeah. Donate enough and you can put words in our mouth. One of the podcasts I listened to did that. Like, if you did $50 in a single donation, you could write like a 1 or 2 paragraph blurb and they would read out loud, word for word, as long as it was like appropriate.
You know what? Screw that. It doesn't have to be appropriate.
I was going to say, it doesn't have to be appropriate for me.
Okay, certain levels of appropriate. Like, we can handle like adult material, but we're not going to handle political stuff.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, so whatevers. But yeah, next episode we're going to be doing book 2, just because I've been very insistent on doing the first 3 books of this series, because I feel like they fit together very well. Again, it's targeting different aspects of dragon hominid relations. That's why they end up with 3 different opinions. So the next book we'll be doing, Age of Fire book 2, is Dragon Avenger. Dilettante, say something.
Something.
We divide the intro into 3s. We divide the break into 3s. We have to divide the outro into 3s. So he does social media. I do next week. You need something to do.
What's left?
Just say something. Oh god, the silence! It's creeping in!
Deepen your voice to be essentially draconic and tease the listeners.
No. We thank you for listening to this podcast. We'll see you again next time. Bye.
I guess that's a good ending.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
You do the tease.
Yeah, give me something to say though, because I can't.
Yeah, I was thinking because like after I was gonna just end with something like
I'll only do
Diligent.
it easy if I could do the voice mod. What?
Type out a sentence for me to say, and I'll do it in a deep, sexy voice.
but you're not deep or sexy. You're a tiny little half breed.
Shut up,
I really can't.
Ray. Give me something.
I mean, I need to know what level of appropriateness we can do with the listeners at this point.
Go safe then.
Thank you for joining us. Now get the fuck out of our cave.
Okay. All right. Let me stop. Let me stop smiling. All right. Thank you for joining us. Now get the fuck out of our cave. There you go.
Awful.
You're awful.
We should probably end on a much kinder note.
Kindly remove yourself from my fucking cave.
How about
now,
this?
Now, don't be like that. I certainly hope these wonderful little snacks come back next week.
Well, they have to, because if they don't, then we eat 5 of them.
Each.
But that means that they shouldn't come back. What?
No. Like it's one of those like
we know where you live.
Yeah, it's like one of those weird threats where it's like if you don't come back and listen next week to one of us tell a story, we'll just...
No, we can't end with a threat. Come on.
But we're dragons.
I mean, let's work our way up to that first.
All right.
All right, whatever. I'm stopping the recording.
Yeah.